Welcome to The Sacred Journey. The Sacred Journey is the program that reminds you that life is a wonderful adventure and each and every experience we have is a unique and perfect opportunity for learning. I'm Joyce St. Germain, and tonight's program, Osprey, Up Close and Personal, is a real treat. And I'll just tease you a little bit by saying there's a part 1 and a part 2. And I'm so thrilled to have Warren Disbrow. Warren Disbrow is, let's see, where do I start? An amazing photographer, shamanic practitioner, a friend, a Reiki master, a lover and student of nature. And for many years now, I've known of his love and interest and knowledge of Osprey, and I finally got him to come here and share his knowledge with us. So thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome, Joyce. I'm just happy to be here.
And there's so much information. Once we started talking, we went, we need to do 2 shows. So.
Oh, absolutely. I could probably talk for 3 or 4 hours on Osprey and not even touch the surface of it. It's they're just amazing birds.
And you're not talking just like we're filming outdoors, so we have to think of all the extraneous noises. You're not just talking, I read a book about Osprey. You literally have been up close and personal. So I'll let you guide us with what you'd like to share.
Probably for the last 10 years now, I've spent most of my weekends and a few evenings during the week, so during the season. So we're probably looking at over 100 hours per year watching them. And you can't get good photos if you don't know your subject. So, and to be honest with you, they live rather boring lives. As most raptors do, they spend most of their time just sitting around doing nothing.
But you know what? I bet most people don't even know what an osprey looks like. So some of your beautiful photographs we will be sharing at the end of the show. But tell us a little bit about what they are, where they're found.
Okay, an osprey is a bird of prey. They weigh in the 2 to 3 pound range. They're not very large. The body is about the size of a red-tailed hawk.
Okay, show
for
with
reference.
Your hands.
So the body's about like that, and they're about yay tall.
That's only 2 or 3 pounds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hollow bones.
Oh, that's 2.
They're birds. And the wingspans range 4 to 5 feet. So they're not quite bald eagle wingspan, but they are wide.
This is 5 feet?
Yeah.
Because it's my height?
Yeah.
Wow.
Their wings are long and thin, which is characteristic of soaring birds. I once watched an osprey soar for over 20 minutes without flapping once.
Wow.
So they're masters at soaring, and they have to be given the migration that they have.
What's their coloring, just in case people
They're a white body, and the back and the tops of the wings is what I would call chestnut brown. The females have a little bit of mottling on their breast, which is known as the necklace. The males are usually pure white, although individuals vary. I've actually seen a nest where the male has had more mottling than the female.
And how could you tell the difference?
In that case, it's difficult. You have to watch them for a long time, and the female will be the one sitting on the eggs.
So it's the behavior, not much appearance.
It becomes a matter of behavior. Like all raptors, the female is about 1/3 larger than the male, but unless you put them together, it's really difficult to tell.
How about the young, the immature?
We'll cover that
in
the next episode. That's going to be in the next episode.
Okay.
Osprey have large feet for their size. Their legs are very, almost tree trunk-like. They've got 4 toes. Each toe has a very long, slender talon that some say is the longest talon of any raptor. But they're long and slender because they've got to get into the fish, and they've got to get their grip. They also have structures on the insides of their feet, like little suction cups, that help them grip a slippery, wet fish. The 4 toes are like most raptors, 2 front and 2 back. But one of the back toes, they can actually swing forward I'm sorry, I got that backwards. They have 3 in front, 1 in back. One of the 3 in front swings back so they can go 2 and 2, again, to aid gripping their fish. They only eat fish.
Period.
That's it. They're also known as fish hawks or sea hawks, but their diet is 99.999% fish. They will eat other things if, and only if, they absolutely are starving and can't get fish.
Now, how about in winter time? Do they?
In winter, they go south.
Oh, they're
So-
migratory then.
Yes, they are migratory. They're kind of fussy eaters. Not so much in the species of fish. They'll eat any fish. They love menhaden. Some of the people that grew up on Long Island Sound, like I did, call them bunker. They love their flounder, but I've seen them eat dogfish, which are small sand sharks. I've seen them eat sea robins. If you've ever seen a sea robin,
They're creepy
oh
looking,
yeah, they're tough and grizzly, and
they don't
but
look appealing.
no, they like trout, they like perch, bass, anything that's in the 1 to 2 pound range. That's about what they can lift. So you're talking an 8 to 9 inch fish is about what they can get out of the water. I say fussy because if they drop their fish, they won't retrieve it. If they're on the nest and it falls out of the nest and hits the ground, it stays there. Something about them, they will not eat it once it's touched the ground, or if it's fallen into the water, they will not eat it.
Wow, that's
Which it's a little odd, and it makes them very difficult to rehab. If there's an injured bird, they do not do well at a rehab center because they don't eat. Because the fish, they're not catching the fish themselves. It seems to be something in them that they have to either catch the fish or they have to be mated to the bird that's caught the fish for them.
what makes them have to go to rehab? What kind of
It would
befall
be
them?
most of the injuries are a result of fishing line. Entanglements in fishermen that aren't responsible and take their fishing line that snags and they just break it and leave it in the environment. That's the biggest problem. They get it wrapped around their feet, or they get a hook embedded in a leg. Worse yet, they can dive on fish. They often dive on fishing lures because they look like they're prey, and the fishing lures often have treble hooks, 3 hooks, and multiples of that, so they get caught up in that.
Well, thanks for educating people
So that's
what not to do.
Yeah, what not to do. You don't want to, be responsible. Pick up your stuff. Balloons are a problem with the string. Anything with nylons, but it doesn't degrade in our environment, so that poses a
But
problem.
poisoning's not so much because they don't eat mice and
Not
little
so much.
rodents.
No, rodenticides aren't an issue for them. But as we'll see in a little bit, there are environmental issues that do affect them. So they'll eat pretty much the entire fish, except for the gills and sometimes the tail. And they can catch fish up to 3 feet below the surface. They have excellent eyesight. I don't wear camouflage when I go out photographing them. I know people that do and insist that camouflage is necessary. Their eyesight's so good, they know you're there. They can see me long before I can see them. It's just a matter of whether or not they care. Certain couples, mated pairs that I watch will get acclimated to my presence, to the presence of myself and the camera. I wear the same silly hat all the time, so they get to recognize
They
that.
do recognize
They
people.
do recognize.
Oh,
They
that's
do
very
recognize. They
interesting.
do have recognition because a friend will come with me and they'll start squawking.
Oh, okay.
And I give the friend my hat and I walk away and they're quiet.
That's cool.
So, where are osprey found? They're found in 6 of 7 continents. The only continent that doesn't have osprey is Antarctica.
Can't fish through ice, I guess.
I guess not. It's too cold. Although they are here when it snows. I've been. They come in the end of March, and we've had some snows. I've got a few pictures of them sitting in the snow, and they're not too happy about it. Can't blame them. I'm not too happy about the snow in April either. The largest concentrations of osprey are in the United States, and in no particular order, Chesapeake Bay, southern New England, and Florida have the highest concentrations in the world.
Are they protected? Are they endangered?
They have had an endangered protection. They are protected like any other raptor at this point. I believe they recently kind of moved off the endangered list. There are enough of them around. They are the same genetically. The Australian ones are just a little bit different in appearance than the ones that we have here, but genetically they're identical. And we will cover the life cycle in the next episode.
Good.
So the local population migrates to South America every year. So the osprey, if you see osprey in Connecticut, you go down the shoreline or up or down the Connecticut River, and you see an osprey, come fall, that bird will head for South America. And that's where they spend their winters. It takes them a couple, 3 weeks, sometimes 4 to get down there, depends on what they feel like. Some of them, one of them that had a telemetry device attached to it, made the trip from central South America to Nantucket in 24 days.
Oh my God. Do they travel in groups?
No, they are solitary. They travel alone. They do not migrate in flocks. They do not associate, really. They really are more solitary, as typical of raptors.
But they don't even travel with their mates?
No.
The mate is
No.
just to raise young
Nope,
and
the
that's
mate,
Wow.
they come here to mate and raise their young, and that's what they're here for. Other than that, they're down enjoying the heat of South
Wow.
America. Osprey are pretty plentiful on the Connecticut shore again, but that wasn't always the case. In the 30s and 40s, it's estimated that Great Island, which is an island at the mouth of the Connecticut River that has no land access, it's a true island, has no land access, there's no houses, and there are no people, was once estimated that it had 100 mated pairs that nested on the island. By the 1960s, that number had dwindled to 2 mated pairs.
Oh my gosh.
Why? Well, it turns out that the eggs were breaking before they could hatch.
Why? Or do they know why?
Well, we know why now. We didn't know in the 60s. So some very intelligent, concerned scientists, if you will, decided to find out what was going on. So they did a little experiment. They took eggs from several of the nests down in the Chesapeake Bay area, and they brought them up here and put them into the nest here, and they took the eggs that were laid here and brought them down to Chesapeake Bay and put them in the nest down there. Well, the eggs from here failed in the Chesapeake Bay area the same as they would have here. And the eggs from the Chesapeake Bay area successfully hatched and fledged. So now we know there's a problem with the shells. There's something that's getting into the shells in these nests in the Connecticut shoreline community. Well, they did some tests and they found out there was a chemical that was being used, a pesticide that was used basically post-World War II. It's called DDT. And it was causing, amongst other issues, it was causing thin eggshells. So we successfully, I wasn't part of it, but the people that
Someone
love,
who cares
the
about
people that
Osprey.
care, were successful in getting this DDT banned. And then ever since, they've been on their road to recovery. They've had a little help from some concerned citizens in the form of nest boxes or nest stands. So if you go down the shore, you'll see a post, and it may have a couple of legs to for supports, and you'll see a platform. And you'll see a whole bunch of sticks on the platform. Well, that's an osprey nest.
A really big nest.
Oh
I
yeah.
think they're
Oh,
quite
the
big.
nests, the platforms are a good 3 foot by 3 foot, and that's what they're a surprisingly big bird. They don't look in pictures. You see them flying around. They don't look at it. But I had one that went zipping by me on a dive about 20 feet away, and it was one of those, oh my goodness moments.
Well,
where,
you said 5 foot wingspan.
Yeah.
This is 5
Yeah.
foot. That's big.
That's a big, when it's 20 feet away, it's a big bird. So our populations have been gradually increasing. They still nest in natural areas, in dead trees, although the nests don't seem to last as long as they do on the platforms. We have some webcams are up now, sponsored by Mononketuck Audubon Society.
So people can actually
So
go
you
on
can
and
you
see
can go to
them.
Mononketuck Audubon's website, and you can tune in to 2 Osprey cameras. You can also go in through Meeks Point Nature Center down at Hammonasset. They have a link to the webcam because there's a cam right outside their building.
Okay, good to know.
There are currently 2 chicks in that nest. The other nest is West River in New Haven. That one had 3, and they're down to just 1 right now. But you can basically watch them 24 hours a day. The cameras have infrared capability, so you can actually kind of see them at night. And the infrared doesn't bother them, the camera doesn't bother them. The Hammonasset birds, actually one of them, I'm not sure if it was the male or female, loved to perch on top of the camera. And when it had sound, you could actually hear the talons scratching on the top of the camera. You could hear just scratch, 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 and you see the whole thing shaking, even though the wind wasn't blowing.
Now, you said there were 3 and now there's 1. Are they natural prey for something
Yes.
else?
The young ones are prey to raccoons, climbing animals, anything that can climb a post or a tree. That's why you'll see a lot of these nest boxes are located in salt marshes. Doesn't mean that they're totally free from mammals, because at low tide, some of these critters actually will go out through the marsh. A lot of the newer nest boxes are now being equipped with with basically a raccoon guard.
Okay.
You know,
I would've
like
never
you
thought
put a squirrel guard on your feeder, just a metal dish,
that. Like they
a metal
work.
cone.
Come on.
For raccoon,
Squirrels.
squirrels aren't really a problem for osprey chicks. So
They're clever.
the biggest natural predator is great horned owl, because they come in at night, and the osprey are not. They're daytime raptors. They're not accustomed.
They're not on alert.
They're not. Well, they can be on alert, but if you've got a moonless night, there's no light. They can't see, and a great horned owl is very quiet, and it can come in and grab a young chick before it's even time. Now, at this time of year, which we'll go into in the next show, they're getting big enough. Not really as big a concern.
Yeah, and we are filming this in mid-July, just to let people
Yep.
know, because they might see it at a later time.
Yeah. Going back to the DDT, while they are rebounding, we're not out of danger. Osprey can be very useful as an indicator species. They are being studied every year. Connecticut Deep enlists the help of Connecticut Audubon Society, and they have a Osprey Stewards program where people go out and monitor nests.
Can people volunteer for that?
And yes, they can volunteer
Okay,
for
hear that, folks?
You can volunteer for that. Probably a little late for this year, but next year in March, you can. It's the Osprey Stewards program, and they actually have a little bit of training. It's not hard to do. They just want to know how many, whether both adults are there, whether she's sitting on eggs, and how many eggs, if you can see them. Really hard to see in a nest unless you've got a location where you can actually get up above them.
Yeah, and I would imagine drones are
And the
upsetting
drones are
to the birds.
absolutely, yes.
Good.
No,
I'm glad
they're
they don't use them.
They don't use them, and Osprey are actually pretty tolerant of, they're one of the more tolerant raptors. They'll scream their heads off, but they will not attack you if you get too close.
Usually or always?
I've never seen them. I've
Okay.
never heard of a story. Red-tailed hawks, on the other hand, you get too close to the nest and they will try to remove the top of your head. Osprey will, as I said, they will yak, they will leave the nest, but I've never seen them attack a person.
Okay. I think we have like 2 minutes left, and I want to be sure, I know we're going to do part 2, so please watch for that. What do you want to be sure that people take away from our part 1 knowing about Osprey that either they didn't know before or a reinforcement of something?
I think just that the biggest thing is just because we got rid of DDT doesn't mean that they or any of the other raptors out there or our wildlife are out of danger. Osprey, there's been some weird things going on the last few years, and I'll say it, I've said it to a few experts, I think we need to start looking at PFAS.
At?
PFAS, it's the firefighting foam. It has now been banned, but there was the World War II bomber crash at Bradley. They used a lot of PFAS. It got into the Farmington River and thus the Connecticut River. There are certain rivers, I think the Hockenham now has been, they banned fish from the Hockenham because of the presence of PFAS.
Well, doesn't that make sense to connect all those dots?
So I think we need to start looking at that as a potential issue. And as I said, Osprey can be used as an indicator species. What happens to them is a reflection of something bad that's going on in our environment.
Okay, we're going to end it there. And your knowledge of Osprey combined with your love for them is just, I'll say impressive, and that's not a big enough word. It's touching, it's moving, it's impressive in all the right ways. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. We're going to be back for another show, and thank you for joining us on the Sacred Journey. Be sure to watch for part 2, and we'll catch you next time.
Riverview Apartments is Bristol's 2-time beautification award-winning residence community for adults age 55 and older. They offer 1 or 2 bedroom apartments with modern appliances, air conditioning, wall-to-wall carpet, and tiled floors. Both heat and hot water are included. Riverview also offers a wide range of activity rooms that include a billiard parlor and a spacious community room. It is handicap accessible with safe, secure parking for tenants and ample off-street parking for visitors. 860-940-6757 or riverviewbristol.com.